Video number 5. So we're going to be talking about carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. And first we're going to be talking about the carbohydrates. The first two we're going to be discussing is starches. Starches is an energy storage. It is the only polysaccharide in our human diet. It basically digests the starch and then metabolizes it into glucose. And I forgot to mention the molecular composition of carbohydrates is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So yes, that concludes starches, which leads me to glucose as the second carbohydrate. And with glucose, it is known as the blood sugar because what happens is our bodies receive glucose from digestion from our food, and then it sends that energy to our cells. Sometimes what happens with people who have diabetes, which is a common disease that a lot of people suffer with, what happens with them, they need insulin because their bodies do not naturally send the sugar to their cells. The insulin helps move the glucose from the blood into the cells. So that concludes the two carbohydrates. So next we are going to talk about lipids. The molecular composition of lipids is hydrogen, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Although most lipids have a higher composition of hydrogen and oxygen. First, we're going to be discussing cholesterol. Cholesterol is a type of steroid. It is the parent steroid. And although it has a bad reputation because it is one of the leading causes of cardiovascular diseases, it's only about 15% of what we eat, and the other 85% of it is synthesized in our liver. It is an important component of the cell membrane and a needed lipid in order for us to continue to survive. So the next lipid we will be discussing is phospholipids. Phospholipids are known for preventing the accumulation of fat in our liver by transporting the cholesterol out of our cells. The phospholipids composition, simply they're known to have the dual nature of fatty acids because two parts of the tail have hydrophobic tails and the other side has a hydrophilic tail. And it is basically the basic structure of our cell membrane. So the last lipid we'll be talking about is triglycerides, which are composed of three carbon alcohols called glycerols, which are linked to 3 fatty acids. And what happens with triglycerides is our body consumes food, calories, and whatever calories we don't need, it converts them into triglycerides. And from there, since we don't need the additional calories, it stores it in our fat cells. And it's used later on in between meals or even longer than that. And lastly is proteins. Proteins are a polymer of amino acids consisting of around 20 amino acids in order to formulate a protein. And they have a primary structure, a secondary structure, a tertiary structure, and a quaternary structure. And some of the protein's functions are structure, cell adhesion, membrane transportation, protection, if I didn't say that already, communication between cells, and yes, proteins are just a very important a very important structure, and they work throughout our entire body.